Welcome to the Gail Estella survival podcast. Where pain becomes purpose, no fear, no remorse. Say it again. Through the pain, through the fire, through the worst of my day. We made it. I found purpose in the breaking. Right there. Survival isn't a whisper. I know. Bro, if you listen, you survive. Still breathing, still alive. God never wastes the hurting. Every chapter had a rolling time.
Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast.
From pain comes purpose. No fear, no remorse. Survival isn't a whisper. Through the worst of my day. Rhythm breaker isn't no whisper.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Here we return pain into purpose, because survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. And before we get started, there's a couple of things I need from you. First, where are you tuning in from? Put in the comment box below where you're tuning in from. And will you please go and like, share, and subscribe to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast? Are you following me on all of my social media platforms? If not, will you please do so at Gail Estella? And lastly, Through It All by Gail Estella. Have you purchased your copy yet? If you haven't, it's not too late. You can go to TrueVinePublishingCompany.org, Amazon.com, or anywhere books are sold. My guest for this evening, he's a great husband, a great father, a pillar of his community, and a very, very, very busy man. I'm going to bring him in and introduce you to him. Mr. Stacy Anderson, Mr. Stacy Anderson.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering who you were speaking about. Pillar of his community. Like, wait.
I'm talking about you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure. We've been trying to make this happen, and glad that we are finally able to do so.
I am too. And thank you for being here. We're going to start. I saw something on Facebook. And you, oh goodness, what did I just do? I don't know what I just did. I'll get him. Let me write that time down, Stacy.
Okay.
3:22. I saw something on Facebook when you said that you were Arthur Lee's baby boy. First, I want you to tell us, who was Arthur Lee?
Arthur Lee.
Lee.
Go ahead and finish it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Who was Arthur Lee?
Yeah,
and I want you to tell us about Arthur Lee.
Oh, man. I don't know if we have enough time to talk about that. Awesome, great man. Arthur Lee Anderson was and is my father. He is me. I am him. When I tell you, to be the youngest of four boys, in that house, and he was just, the master of everything. I don't think there was nothing that he couldn't do, accomplish, take on, or wasn't willing to do and take on, from the church to the community. Celanese is what he's most known for. I tell you, Gail, I was in the grocery store a couple of years ago, and this lady said, "Now, I don't know your name, baby, but I know your daddy got to be named Arthur Lee Anderson." And I said, "What gave it away? The head?" And she said, "Absolutely." She said, "You look just like him." And she said, "I used to work for him. He was my supervisor." And I've heard repeatedly the best boss, best manager, best supervisor ever from so many people. So a lot of things that I do, everything that I do, I'm always looking to try and emulate and carry out, keep his legacy alive.
What did your father teach you about being a man?
Everything. It was his talk. It was his silence. It was his statue. It was how he showed up for his family. Um, I think the biggest thing, and I share this with everybody, Joy, even my wife Joy, she
Mm-hmm.
talks to a lot of people about that she's grateful that she doesn't have to cook. I'm the cook in the house. All of us know how to cook because Arthur Lee was the cook in our house. Lizzie Page Anderson was spoiled rotten. The only female in the house, and she had it made in the shade. And but Arthur Lee, years ago, or when he was younger, he and his brother were sent from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where my grandmother lived. They were sent to York, South Carolina, to stay with their grandmother, my great grandmother, after some death of some family members. And so they came down to help her as young men, and she taught them everything. They wash clothes, cook, clean a house, and all of that. And he taught and instilled that into every last one of his sons. And so we can do it all.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you got your work ethics from your father, because I remember you telling me in our conversation that your father would always arrive to work early. And he said that he wanted to be ready, so he
Yes,
wouldn't have to get
get
ready.
ready.
So tell
So
us about your work ethics and what did you learn from him?
yeah, so I'll make you chuckle here. I think the get in there early part, skip the generation, because my son is like that. Uh, my son Nicholas, where he works, he will go like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours early, and he's there and he's present. I come in sliding in on two wheels, but when I'm there, I am impactful. I've worked in Charlotte my whole career. The bank is the only real job that I've had and so with traffic and all that good stuff, it just takes me a while to get there. But when I get there, I am effective, I am impactful, all those things as he was. But that timing thing, I'm still working. My
You're
best
still
friend,
working on
my
it.
best friend Buddy would tell you that. I'm still working on that.
Well, at least you're acknowledging it. That's a great thing.
That's half the battle, right? Half the battle.
Yes, yes, yes. You said your father was your greatest hero.
Hmm.
That's big.
Absolutely, absolutely. He was my best man in my wedding.
He was your best. Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, he was my
Okay.
best man in my wedding, and yeah, I wouldn't have had it any other way. There were days after we bought our home. I would come home from work, and he's out here on the riding lawnmower, starting to cut my grass, or he's sitting on the porch waiting on me to get home. But our relationship wasn't always like that. Lizzie was mine. I'm the baby.
Yes.
So when I would call home from college and he'd answer the phone and I said, "Hey daddy, hold on, let me get your mama." That was his tagline. "Hold on, let me get your mama." Because he knew I was gonna be asking for something and he knew that's who I wanted to talk to. And I remember you know, after working while in school, trying to balance and figure all that out, I knew that I owed him a thank you for, him working at Celanese and allowing his money to go toward me to have a college education.
Mhm.
And so I called one day and he said, "Hold on, let me get you." I said, "No, no, no, daddy, daddy, daddy." He's like, "What?" And I said, "I want to talk to you." He said, "About what? What you need?" And I said, "I just want to tell you thank you. I want to thank you for this opportunity because I know so many people that probably wanted to go to college and probably deserved to go more than I did,
Mhm.
couldn't. But for the sacrifice." And he was just in silence on that phone. And he said, "Let me go get your mama." And that's how but I knew what that meant because I know him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was
He said, "Thank you." And thank you was caught up in all that moment of silence and him going to get my mama.
and that was going to be my next question. Because men during that generation, they were providers, they were protectors, but they didn't show a lot of emotion. Or you say he had your mom spoiled, so that was
Yeah,
showing
yeah,
emotion.
yeah.
But raising four boys,
Hmm.
did you ever hear your father say, I love you a lot? Or did he ever embrace you or hug you?
Um,
And how did you know if those things didn't occur? What was his language of love?
yeah. No, no hugs, no verbal I love you. I could lean into him or whatever, or he thump your head. My nickname was Skeeter. And the way that he said, that I called, come in, Skeeter, and do this or whatever, that's how I knew that, he loved me. I would say probably his language of love was providing and
Mhm.
making sure that we had everything that we needed. And I could tell you, Gail, I brought that into my relationships and into my marriage, wanting to provide, but still missing, things that Joy was looking for and needed. But again, all I saw was provision, and it worked for Lizzie. So, my mama, so, why wouldn't it work for
Yeah.
you
Yes.
until, you learn as you grow.
Yeah. And I'm glad you acknowledged that too. We're going to go back to that.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for acknowledging
Hmm.
that. And thank you for
Yeah.
your transparency.
Yeah.
Mr. Arthur Lee, tell us
Hmm.
about once he got sick and how was that process, his going through his illness and his passing.
Yeah.
How was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
journey for you and your Miss Lizzie and your brothers?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, losing such a strong person out of the household, the person.
Yeah. He, back in the day and for many years, we always joke he smoked Salem cigarettes, and my uncle Will, they smoked Winston. And so Winston Salem, of course, so my grandmother, his mother, and family members worked for RJ Reynolds, the manufacturer of cigarettes in
Mhm.
Winston-Salem. And so that was just so ironic that, the cigarette brands that they smoked. So, there were many times when we were growing up and all four of us were in the house, there were times that he coughed so long and so loud, I remember sitting up in the bed and just like, is that his last breath? I mean, that a lot of those things just I still remember to this day, and him smoking cigarettes and the waking up coughing and all of that. And so when he started having some heart conditions and things, he was able to stop. And when you stop, that's kind of some of the weight gain and some different things that comes along with that. And he was an avid gum chewer to help, offset that. And but when he, started to have some challenges, with his health and some different things, you know, he kept pressing. He didn't wear it, um, like that to where it was, visible to many. We knew some things, but on that one day, I think that was like September the 10th of 2011, and my mom had called and said, he wasn't feeling good or whatever, and that we needed to, take him to ER or whatever. And he might have gone to ER like early in that week. I think I was doing like some traveling or doing something, but he had been early in the week and back home. And so Carlos and I both came by and we loaded them up. And
Carlos, this your who?
Carlos is my sometimes daddy these days, but he's the brother that's right above me.
Okay.
Yep, I'm the youngest, and then Carlos, and then on up Terry and Gerald. And
Okay.
Carlos loaded up in the van that Hope would drive over to Faith over to get her hair done to you. He
Mm-hmm.
picked us up in the van, and we went to Charlotte and went to Pineville, and they were running some different tests and different things. And so my mom and Carlos went out of the room, and I sat in there with him, and as the nurses and doctors, whatever, went in and out. And so after midnight, we were still there, and the nurse came by. She came by. We were still in the ER, that corner. I can still say we're in that corner ER unit, and she said, "Mr. Anderson, I'll come and lift you up in just a little bit, pull you up. You're slumped down." and so she went somewhere, then she came back, and she just kind of had this look, and she said, "Mr. Arthur, are you with us?" And just that fast, Gail, everything, they read me out, drew the curtain, and I could see they were, they had this small tiny nurse. I still remember her because she was like on the bed and just pressing his chest or whatever, and I could see through a small crack of the curtain. And just like that, the doctor came. They called the code, and my mom must have known. She started coming down the hallway, and when they put me out, I called Carlos and told him to come back in. He was in the car, and through that small crack, I could see them working and running around and scurrying. And then next thing you know, the doctor came out and said, "We did all we could." And I was like, "What does that mean?" And yep, he was gone. So that was September the 11th, 2011, that he died. Yep, that year.
So
Right.
experiencing that, what was that like for you? Seeing them working on your father, and then knowing that there was nothing that you could do to help him.
Yeah, it was a bag of emotions,
Mhm.
confusion. Um, I was scared, I was upset, but then I knew I probably needed to shift in a mode to make sure that my mom was good because she was already um, battling with Lewy body dementia, which is Alzheimer's, and
Mhm.
um, you know, the I can't even call the name of it now, but pretty much the dementia piece
Yeah.
is was the main part of it, and so my immediate thought was to make sure that she was good and shift from that, and I went into work mode,
Yeah.
funeral planning and calling people, and I just kind of tuck that to the side and just let that be it for now. I didn't really have time to kind of sit in that.
So you put yourself behind so you can make sure everyone else was
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
How long was it before you grieved your father? Or have you truly grieved?
Uh, I have, but it came. So if you back up, then
Mhm.
before him, probably 6 or 7 months before that, my next oldest brother Terry was killed in a car accident.
Okay, and I thought Terry was after your father. He was
Yeah,
before your
he
father.
he was before. Yep, he was February of 2011, February 23rd of 2011. So he was first. And same thing, you get that call. I just, Carlos and I, we went down to go see my sister-in-law, and like, what do you need? And she knew how much Terry loved Rock Hill and the fellas and all of that. And so she really wanted him to be, his final resting place to be Rock Hill near his parents that they could get to him. And so he's right there where Heckle, oh, I can't remember the name of the uh, grave
Carlton,
site,
Bass
whatever.
Carlton? Is
Yep,
it Bass
yep,
Carlton?
yep. Bass
That's where
Calton. So,
Ava's, yeah, that's where she's
yep,
been.
yep,
Mhm,
yep.
mhm.
So, right there, because that was close proximity for my parents and all that. So, I moved into work mode and make sure everything happened. I took care of Rock Hill, and my sister-in-law took care of Sumter and make sure everything was good from that piece of it. And I just kept moving. So I would say it was a compound effect after my dad is
Yeah.
when it hit me, and I stepped away from work for several weeks. Took a leave of absence just to really it just all just came crashing.
And crashing. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. One
And
day.
I want to interject one moment. How did your mother and father handle losing their son? Did you see your father show emotions then? Did he show any
Yeah,
emotions then?
yeah, but it was quick. It
Yeah.
was quick. When we went over to deliver the
Like you?
the news. Yep, absolutely. So I did get that from him. It was quick. Um, I saw the disbelief, and then I think we both did the same thing. We all shifted focus on Mama to make sure
Mhm.
she was good. But I did, there was I think a tear from him one, and
Mhm.
kind of did that wipe, and then we just kind of move from there.
Yeah. How was Miss Lizzie during that time? Losing her
Um, Yeah, I think it was difficult, but being in that place of kind of the early parts of dementia was probably confusing for her. There were
Yes.
probably some days that she wanted to scream and didn't know how. And that was
Mm-hmm.
probably from the frustration of trying to remember and process and
Mm-hmm.
understand.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine it was very challenging for her, but it was all inward for
Yes.
her, I would imagine.
So do you think with losing your brother Terry and then losing your father, such close proximity, do you feel that it might have been better for Miss Lizzie psychologically that she didn't understand everything that was going on at the time?
You are spot on. I believe even when Terry was here and we were going through the things with, I mean, when I tell you, and I know we'll probably get to Mama in a little bit, but you talk about a fighter and a trooper. Went through breast cancer. All of that. During her time, she lost her only sister. My aunt Bay, Aunt Annie Hutchinson. Other siblings, and so she battled so much. But in my mind, I thought that's why Terry went first, because I think the impact of him losing, Daddy would have been, a lot for him. And then dealing with the sickness of my mom because she wasn't herself. And so
Mm-hmm.
Terry and I were more aligned with Mama, and Carlos and Gerald were, kind of aligned with Arthur Lee when I think of just kind of how we moved and shifted throughout the house over the years. It was kind of that those were our kindred spirits and how we
Mm-hmm.
operated and moved and emulated it, in a lot of ways of how we handle things. But I believe that's why, to me, in my mind, I played that out. Like, that's the order. Terry, went first, and then I know my dad struggled seeing my mom morph in his eyes to somebody that he
Yes.
still loved and adored, but she wasn't Lizzie Page Anderson, who he knew and loved over all those years. And so I just think that's how. And so for her to shift in her mind to not to be aware but not fully be present in it is probably what allowed her to live as long as she did.
Yes, you
Yeah.
did. You lose your brother, you lose your father, and I'm messing up the word,
But you
but
got it. I got it.
cognitively,
Mm-hmm.
you're losing your mother
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
That's a form of grief as well. I guess that's a question and a statement. Was that a
Yeah.
form of grief for you as well, a form of loss?
you know, I think any of my brothers would tell you that, you know, they they can tell me nothing about where I stood with Lizzie Anderson.
Mm-mm.
I lock, stock, and barrel. Now I had a little competition with Terry. That's what I told you. I always side eyed him. That he was thinking he was the favorite, and how he was treated. But I knew my place with her. So yeah. Knowing that, um, she would run through the different names or just kind of look at you differently, when I would show up. Um, and, when folks go through that type of illness, the closest ones, get the hardest blows and punches. And so I had to take a lot knowing that, I had to combat it with, I know she doesn't mean it, it's me, her baby. But yeah. It's a lot of tough times moving through that and watching the evolution of um what it said, once a man twice a child, or
Yes.
whatever, is kind of what you go from watching that play out in its
Mhm.
fullest form.
And you said after your brother passed and your father passed, and then you took the time and you lost it. So, how was your grief journey? What did your grief journey look like for you?
Yeah, um and this statement may sum it up because I thought I was doing pretty good. And I remember Joy coming home and she would let the kids play outside and she would come in because she said to me, she didn't know what she might have come into the house to one day, meaning that I might have, taken my own life or done something to harm myself just because of how long I sat with just moving through life and, like not really that nothing happened, but just moving through it. And I
Did you ever
think
think about taking your own life, Stacy?
absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm surprised. I was so surprised when she said that. I think that shook me out of everything. I was like, wait, what, me? Like,
What do you think?
where am I going and get enough, unction that, I'm going to do that to myself? No, I never, ever, ever, depressed. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
not to the extent of that. So when she said that, that rocked me to my core. That woke me up.
Mhm.
And I realized then that I had people depending on me and folks that needed me, especially them. My mama, still here, and so I knew I needed to move in that space of caregiver to the full extent. And Carlos and I, as you know, a unit. Me and Joy, Carlos and Hope.
Mhm.
We took that thing on and ran with it. And Gerald, my oldest brother, as he transitioned back this way from living out of town. But yeah, that rocked me. So I knew I had to kick it into high gear and get myself together.
Okay. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk about your marriage before we get to, solely on your marriage. You said you enjoy Hope and Carlos.
Mhm.
How important is it to have a helpmate that can step in and help take care of a person that's there, that's not their parent?
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times the married person, one person steps away.
Yeah.
And that didn't
Yeah.
happen with the two of you because I saw firsthand how active
Yeah.
your wives were in
Yeah.
taking care of Mama Lizzie, as
Yes.
they call, because
Yes.
I felt like I was on the journey
Yeah.
with y'all because Hope talked about it all the time and Faith
Hmm.
talked about it. So how important was it having Joy right there by your side, advocating for you, advocating for your mother, and taking on that role when some people might have not agreed to do that?
I don't know if I have enough word. I'm still, and I remember your home church, before freedom. But there's a song they saw, the debt I owe. I got to pay the debt I owe. There's a debt that I owe that I don't know if I'll ever be able to pay. To Joy, and Carlos the same with Hope. To take on an in-law, as if it's yours. And then, mind you, Gail, in the course of all that, in maybe 2015, 16, Joy, she lost her mom suddenly. Her mom was on a trip with her sorority sisters and she passed away on that trip. So on top of all of that and her, being there for me and helping me, she lost her mother. And so after that, I knew I didn't have time to kind of sit in whatever I
Mhm.
wanted to kind of go back to. I had to be there to undergird her for her being there for me.
Yes.
And we talk about it, all the time because during that time, that's when, Nicholas was preparing for college and all that. And I just moved into dad mode. And I mean, I was doing everything, I talked about the cooking and clean, all that. I mean, I moved in everything and she was here and present, but it was a space there
Yes.
that she was
Yes.
trying to process
Oh.
through.
Mhm.
And so then when we talked about being able to bring, my mom into the home, offsetting with Carlos and Hope, and we were alternating weekends and all of that, I knew that was an undertaking and an ask. And without blinking of an eye, she's looking at me like, I was just waiting on you to say, absolutely. And then Gail, on top of that, have fraternity brothers. We've been in, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity for over 35 years. And so we always like to get together and, you know, connect and hang out and just kind of keep each other accountable. And she would allow, even on the weekends that we had my mother, if I had something, I could be gone for that whole weekend. And here she is with Noel and Nicholas. They're taking care of her, without me being here. So, the debt I owe, yeah,
Let
I
me
got
ask
to
you
pay.
this. You say the debt you owe. Did her actions make you fall in love with her even more, or did it intensify the love that you already had for her?
Yeah, you go to a place of yeah, I guess it does. It's a space of, I guess, more focus on, after years of marriage, whatever. There's just another layer that you have to learn. We're definitely not the same people that got married in June of 1994, and so there's added layers to that because now we're dealing with, you know, elderly parents or deceased parents, children that are growing. So you're shifting to what your focus. A lot of our years, our focus was on the kids
Yeah.
and not really each other.
Hmm.
And so grateful, like that's what we've been able to get back to, over these last, decade or so, is a focus back on us, where it all began.
Hmm.
But absolutely, yeah. I would say, there's definitely just some things that you look at your spouse so differently, and just like, it's wow. And but what you expect, it wasn't like a total surprise because
Hmm.
I
You
knew
knew
what I
who
had
you
in
had.
her. Yep,
Yeah.
and she knew who she
Hmm.
had in me. So it's
Hmm.
just almost understood, but
Hmm.
not the space where you take it for granted.
Right. I like that. Yes. And Miss Lizzie passes.
Yeah.
How was it for you seeing her declining? Because you said you were the caretaker. You already talked about it a little bit, but you said how strong she was. This was the lady that had beat breast cancer.
Hmm.
She had
Hmm.
lost her sister.
Hmm.
She
Hmm.
lost her child.
Hmm.
That's a hard one. Then she lost her husband.
She lost her mother.
And she
Hmm.
lost her
Yeah.
mother.
Hmm.
She still
Yeah.
stood,
Yeah.
this strong person. And then you have to look at her in a different light.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to the point of that she's passing.
Yeah, that's the one that got me and still gets me.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just one of those things where it could be the smell of something that just reminds me. I still have a jacket of hers that she has, and every now and then I'll open up that closet and grab the arm of it and smell it. I still have like um, a hair, like this hat that she had. Same thing. But yeah, that one, that's your first love. That's your
Hmm.
connection. You came through that being, and so that's just that bond that just can't be broken. And but to watch her suffer and go through the way that she did, um, I think it was selfish on my part because the long length the illness, it gave me more time, but she suffered.
Mm.
But in my selfishness, I was grateful, you know, flip it to what I just said. Think about Joy's mom. You talk to her before she heads out the weekend, she's going to the girls, and then you get a call on, Sunday,
Mhm.
she's gone and
Mhm.
boom, nothing. And
Mhm.
so I was able, down to that one. So, after calls, Hope and Joy and I, we kind of alternated the weekends, and then we got to a place where, and we had great help. Pam Daniels, her mom and my mom were great friends, and Pam came in and helped take care of my mom and stayed because my mom so wanted to be on 1090 Bowser Street. She did not want to leave that house for
Leave her
whatever that
home. They
was. She
don't
was
want to
like,
leave their
I'm
home.
not leaving this house. You can do what you want, but I'm not leaving this house. And she would go to the Flint Hill Adult Daycare Center. And I see they've got something out now where they need some assistance or whatever. So I'm all in and I'm rallying the troops to make sure because that team over there did an amazing job with her. But that was her outlet during the day. And then in the evening, Pam would come and stay. And then on the weekend, she would either come to me or to Carlos. But, you know, in those days when they were bringing in, you know, the doctors and hospice and all of that saying, you know, at the memory care center where she was, I remember that Wednesday, I spent the night there with her. And, you know, you hear the rattle and all those things, but I had gospel music playing in the back. And I crawled in bed with the Gail and I spent the night that night and I said, Mom, if you're ready to leave me, I'm ready. A lie. I didn't mean it, but in my mind, I knew that's probably what she needed to hear.
Yes.
Because she was hanging on for, in my mind, she was hanging on for her baby boy and, you know, labored breathing and all that. And so she all went through the night. It was that Thursday morning and she was still here, you know, fighting to breathe. And this nurse came in and she said, hey, she said, why don't you go home and take a shower and get you some coffee and you come back. Now, before I left, Joy came and Hope came, them faithful daughter-in-laws. You know, they came and they sat and, you know, in there, you know, with her. And so I listened to the lady and I packed up and I left and Hope said, I'm gonna head out too. And so Joy left, but Joy left her work phone and she didn't know she left it until she got back to her job. So she went back to go get her phone. And when she went back in the room, she looked and she could tell that she was gone and she hit the button for the nurse and she came. And so she left when we all left. And when Joy called me and told me to come back, and I was like, you know, move right to fight mode. I was just there. She was still breathing. So what do you know, I kind of moved to that.
Yes.
And then, you know, I just sat on the bed and it's like, okay, you know, get a grip, you know, it's good. That's what she needed, you know, that's what she wanted. And I went back over to the place and then of course go right back into what I need to do, who I need to call, you know, Robinson coming in, you know, all those things.
When you heard the news, did you cry?
I don't think that I did in that moment. I cried coming back home on the way home.
Okay.
And I might have in the room because, you know, of course, you know, she was still there and, you know, growing cold, but, you know, just kind of sitting there in that moment. And of course, as soon as somebody touch you or say one word to you, because, you know, my mom, she ran that place even in her illness. I mean, she ran that place. So they are all coming through and, you know, whatever. And so, of course, you know, you open your mouth to say one word and then, you know, here comes, you know, all of that, you know, you lose it. And, you know, just trying to fight through to, you know, to make sure that, you know, you're going to be good.
And then you go into fight mode.
Yep.
You're the one.
Yep.
So, Mr. Anderson, are you the one or are you the one that appoints yourself to be the one?
That's good too. I'm going to take 50-50 for 200, Alex. Halfway, halfway, because many of the times they put me in that position. When I was a baby, and you handle all the finances for them, and you do this and you do that or whatever. So so many things I was thrown into that.
Okay.
And then so then I felt it was my duty and honor to, you know, you're not going to take it from me now.
Right.
You know, I'm getting it lay, you know, my mom, she's rolling out here, and
Yeah.
hey, it's on and popping,
I
and
got this one. I
yep,
got
that part. So I took what they had given me. Yeah, I took it. That's
Yes, you
about
can't
right. I
have it
took
back
it.
right now.
No,
Hold
not
on to
right
this
now.
baton.
Got it. Got it.
Well, and how was your grieving process after that? Did you allow yourself time to grieve your mom, Miss Lizzie's baby boy? Did you allow yourself to grieve Stacy?
You know, again, when I think about the difference in, and you try not to look, since I'm a father, I try not to put it in a place of, rank, like, your mom's here and your dad's there. But as I said earlier, you come through that person. That's like your first connection, your first love. When you think about what God gives us as a man and what we give to you all as our wives or to the woman, and what you make out of all of that, like, I mean, that's something amazing. It's
Mhm.
just so I will never, I think I can emphatically say this, I will never stop grieving my mother. I'll never stop.
Mhm.
I don't think the love that I have, and I'm saying present tense, the love that I
Yes,
have for her,
yes,
the
yes.
love that I have for her, and the love that I know that she has for me in the spirit, and what she had for me in the present, in the flesh. It's to that grief that I'm dealing with on a daily basis signifies the amount of love that we have for each other.
Mhm.
So yeah, so no. I don't think it'll until we run in those streets of gold,
Yeah,
together. And
it doesn't go away. It
yep,
doesn't go
yep,
away.
yep.
Your mother she just celebrated. Well, she just had a birthday, her heavenly birthday.
Birthday, yeah.
How was her birthday? How was that for you?
Um, I had somebody tell me, to not make an event of, her death, and all those things. And again, I always say to people, people, they'll tell you whatever, she in a better place, and all those things. And some people just don't know what to
What to
say.
say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they just say what they've heard. It's just it's like a quarter in the jukebox. They're saying, what they paid for, to say. And but I think I was intentional this time. I aligned a trip for work, a business trip, and I had a client visit on that Monday, on the 20th. So that allowed me, and I intentionally chose to drive versus flying
Mm.
to Atlanta. Um, Used to that road. That's where I went to college in '88. So I knew that I could take my time, and I could, and Donna Lawrence and Leandra never fail you,
Mhm.
on a good old road trip, and riding by, and people probably seeing me snotting and crying, and thinking, is that joke all right in that
Yeah.
Nissan Altima that I rented, and but that was my window, that was my time.
And
And
I love it. I
yep,
love it.
yep, put myself in that bubble.
And before the next question, how important is it to be vulnerable? Because, like you said, your father and so many other men, they don't show their emotions, they don't express their emotions, they don't talk about their emotions, and they're just inside eating them up.
Yeah.
How old are you? How old are you?
I'm 56 in October. I'll be 56 in
56.
October.
Okay. So you could still be part of that generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
How important is it for men? And this is, your opinion, because I know you can't speak for everyone, but the release that you get when you feel your feelings, the release that you get when you share your feelings and share your emotions, that's like freedom. That's freedom. And so
Yeah,
many men walk around in bondage.
You got to think about it. That's what we were taught. We're being who we had. You know, that's what we saw. You didn't worry about, you know, expressing all that, but you know, it came out in other ways, either in anger or when you got off by yourself. I mean, that's something that I definitely have to work on. You know, I don't show it. It's not, you know, for public. Sometimes it creeps up and it comes out, and you shift the subject. And so I'm one of those that, you know, I'll make light of something just to, you know, shift me and shift the room and the conversation. You know, but you got to think about that's layers that we as men are trying to get off of us. So it will take a while for us to get to that layer of that onion inside of us, that where we can just be vulnerable. But two, you know, sometimes when we expose that inside, there are our outsiders that will take advantage of that.
Even in
And
the
so,
household.
yep, from the household to the workplace, relationships, church, anywhere else, that, you know, the minute you show that, um, you know, you mean it for good and somebody mean it for bad or
And
turn it
come
to
back to
bad. And
weaponize
so,
you.
and so then, yeah, you're gonna catch helicopter getting back to that place again, because I have covered. Yeah, I got
You had
layers
it,
on
you
that.
misuse it, you abuse it, you don't get this
Yeah,
anymore.
you had your chance. You had your chance, and
I'm all right. I'm all
yep,
right.
I open up, and so yep, that it's that one word or the head nod or yep, I'm good. And
Now leave me alone.
yep, you can't get back in there.
We
Yep.
just celebrated Mother's Day.
hmm
How was that for you?
It has become a thing of it's become a thing of dread. You know, some years, you know, she left here in 2020. And so, you know, preparing to go to church and all of that, you know, I probably, maybe since then, I may have gone to church one Mother's Day, if that. I don't know if yeah, I think I've done maybe one to see if I could. And I think I pivoted, you know, a little early on or whatever. You
So
know,
you
because
boycott Mother's Day.
yeah, you know, not. I guess I don't want to sit, because you know everybody's talking about their plans and you know what they're doing, and I think that kind of bothers me
Mhm.
too, because it's almost like when you think about helping the needy and those that don't have what you have. You know, we wait until November, December, and we pull out all the stops with an overabundance of food and clothes and gifts, and folks are hungry all year long, and
Mhm.
they're cold all year long or needing this. And so it's the same thing. You need your mother. Look, if you ask my tight crew that I'm with, I, Bunny from church, from Freedom,
Mhm.
um, I talk to him, you know, and, you know, Darren, you know, my close crew, I talk to them all the time about go spend that time with your mother. And so Bunny has a routine now that, you know, he and his mom, he'd take her out to dinner maybe like every other week now. They go, and I love that. And Darren lives in Charlotte, but he comes to Rock Hill and pulls up to hang out with his mom. And I'm my line brothers, my fraternity brothers. We got together last August for our 35th year, and we all just kind of took time going around the room. And I told them that, you know, there are many days that I feel like an orphan. You know, I don't
Mm.
have either parent here, and some of them have both parents are one, and they stay busy and they don't go see. If I had an opportunity to go see, go sit with, call on the phone, I would jump at that chance and that opportunity. So I don't. So what I pour into them is take advantage of the time that you have with your parents and don't miss that opportunity. I don't care if mama called you and said, you know what I saw on the news today? Oh, I forgot. I'll call you back. And she called you back. You know what I saw? she can call you 10 times. You answer all 10 times. Because I went through that with her in dementia. Talk
Yes.
to her and she'd tell me something and hang up. She called her back and tell me something. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like,
Like,
yeah, like,
okay.
come on. But I remember the doctor saying that, like, you roll along with it, act like that's the first
Yes.
time you heard her voice that day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, different
Mm-hmm.
things that she would do or say, and you know, I see this and I see that, and there's nothing there. He's like, oh, okay, oh, it must have left because I don't see it now, but it was there. I think I saw it too. You just roll with it because it lasts for a moment, but when you deny them of what they saw, what they in their head that they saw, it angers them because that's that thing of there's something wrong with me, whatever. But again,
Yes.
back to your question about Mother's Day, you know, go spend that time, you know, with them because it won't always be.
It won't always be. So that's a good place to pivot. What about Joy? How do you honor her on Mother's Day?
Besides getting on her nerves, how do I well look, so she did look, I gave her Mother's Day gift Sunday, and she she slow rolled on me like, yeah, I like it, but so you know, but look, we've been married so long. I get that. I know what that means. I was like, all right, put it back in the bag. And then she started running through and just telling me that's where I'm at now. But I always overdo it. You know, I'll get what she asked for, but then she's gonna get, you know, something else. Or, you know, Christmas, she always you know, we don't need anything. Let's just make sure everybody else is good. But you know, I'm gonna do it. But you know, whatever. When I think about this journey that we've been on for 32 years next month, as Ti says, she can have whatever she likes, whatever she
Whenever she
wants.
likes. Yes. Yes.
She can get it. Yeah. But I celebrate her. I try to celebrate her all the time. Now, am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I get on her nerves? I'll answer that yes. Do I drive her crazy? Yes. But at the end of the day, she knows you know, where my heart is
Yes.
and
You
how
said
important she is.
earlier that early on in your marriage, you were the same type of husband that your
Yeah.
father was. You were the provider and the protector.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when she came to you and brought this to your attention, did you immediately pay attention, or did you still feel you were doing what was instilled in you and I'm being a good husband and you just complaining too much? What was it that made you decide I'm going to listen to my wife?
You know, I think I might have had the thought in my head like, you're a woman, you don't know what you're talking about. I know my daddy was married almost 50 years. Like, how you gonna tell me? And I've seen in your parents, you know, married all that time, you gonna tell me like you know. But, you know, which is just the craziest idea to think that because of course she knows what she needs and they knew what they needed in their marriage. And who knows, my mom might have been telling my daddy, I'm tired of you cook for me every morning. I don't want grits and salmon patties, but that was his, you know, this is what you're gonna get because this is what I made. And she's like, I'm all crying out on salmon patties off the leaf. I want bacon or something. But you know, so of course we always think that we
Mm-hmm.
you know, what's what. But you know, it took some time. And I'm thinking in this last decade, things started to click. Yeah, let me just tell you how crazy. Again, you know, I worked for the bank uptown and in Founders Hall, they had a Julie's department store. So when I got paid, I would go in there and tell the lady what size Joy was, whatever. Lady would wrap up a dress and put it in a box, and I would bring it home. I mean, she got because I was providing, I was working, felt like I was doing good, so I was passing that on to her. And then one day, yeah, we were cleaning up the room, and you know, she's notorious for shifting that winter and summer wear kind of stuff or whatever. And I don't, my stuff is just kind of all over, just it's all together and I just get what I need. But she was grabbing stuff had tags on it. And I was like, hey, I bought you that. I bought you. And she's like, yeah, but I didn't ask for that. I didn't need that. And I consider that like a slap in the face.
Mhm,
Like, here I am
mhm,
buying for you, but it made perfect sense. I didn't ask you to go. I didn't ask her nothing about, hey, do you need a green dress? Do you need a yellow dress? Do you
mhm,
need, the lady, I knew, they knew when I was coming, and we got these over here, in her size or whatever. So you just tell us what you want to wrap it up. That's how much I went in there.
mhm.
And that's how much, she might have wore a few things out of the stuff that I was bringing. But yeah, that wasn't her, like, that wasn't what she needed. That wasn't her love language. But that was my
Mhm.
way of saying, oh yeah,
Yes,
I love you. I got you.
yes, yes, yes.
And she's like, you can get me this other way, but I don't need that. But again, that's what growing together, I
Mhm,
always tell people, you learn as you grow,
mhm.
not as you go. Learn as you grow, and you figure it out.
What has life taught you about being a husband? Because we're going to talk about your community service, but what has life taught you about being a present husband, being a present father, and having to learn how to balance your community service and balance your family as well? Because Noelle is a daddy's girl.
All day, all
Yes,
day, and
yes,
she's Lizzie reincarnated too
yes.
of all of that. So,
Because I
um,
remember calling you, you said, Gail, we're going to have to talk another day because Noelle is home from college and that's my baby girl. I got to spend my time with her. I'm like, okay.
everything centered. Yep, right there, right there. But it's a great question. What has life taught me? About being a husband. That I don't know everything. That I
Mm,
don't know everything, and you will never be a perfect husband. I've learned with joy to be um, a husband when she needs it, a father when she needs it, and a friend when she needs it, and a preacher when she needs it, a counselor. And so it's many things in that relationship. A banker, all those things that I I think that's the only way that you can make it, these days. I pour into a lot of folks that just got married and just said, hey, you don't know it all. Communication, communication, communication. You gotta talk. You gotta talk, even when you don't want to, when you are mad as fire. We
mhm,
did. I remember many years, we said we wouldn't go to bed, angry, and we would pray. And it's hard for you to be mad at somebody and trying to talk to Jesus at the same time and be authentic with it. So, you learn, and having to get down on your knees and hold hands, and you don't want to be bothered with, that joker or that jokerette. And but
mhm,
here you are,
mhm.
holding hands and praying, and gotta say I love you and kiss them good night, and then still turn over intentionally go back to being mad. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
What have you taught your son about being a man? And when it comes to choosing girlfriends and how to treat a young lady?
Yeah, I try to think maybe this will help. Um, Carlos and I and Tyree, Carlos' son, and Nicholas is my son.
Mhm,
We all went to the same barbershop, and and it two different ones. We used to go to Jazz back in the day when he was by the Mini Grill, and then to Twins later off of 21. And they both would say, "Man, I think y'all got y'all kids mixed up. Like Tyreek should be yours, and Nicholas should be Carlos's." And because Carlos is a talker, he can run through everything in sports and all that. And Tyreek is like me, we can be social when we need to, but we can be reserved,
mhm.
and when we need to. But so I say all that to say is that many times I count on my brother Carlos to help me reach Nicholas, because I know we're going to talk about community stuff later. I feel like with all that I've done and what I've all the accolades and things that I've gotten, I think in Nicholas's mind that he has to try to measure up to that, to be just like me. And he said that one day. I was like, hey, they've got some opportunities at the bank. And he said those words before. I think he knew he said it, or maybe it was just been in him so long. I don't want to be you. And I was like, well, it's not the same job, whatever, but I'm just giving you this opportunity with some benefits and this, and you don't have to work as hard and, labor and intensive and all that stuff. But he didn't want to be me. So
how did that hit you? What did you take from that?
There between the eye, but it was so real and it was so right, but it was so hurtful, in that moment. But I had to chin up, I had to take it. And I understood that. I understood
do you
what he
tell
meant.
Nicholas you love him? Do you hug him? Do you tell him you love him?
Absolutely. He gets way more than what, I got, almost to a fault. Like he comes and he gonna come find you when you come home or wherever he see you at or whoever. He's laying all those 200 and some odd pounds dead on you and kiss on the forehead. I mean, he does it all. And I think because he spent a lot of time with my mom and dad, just like he did with George's mom and dad. And I think that grandparent land that you go, it's almost a space of do-over. And I know I seen Arthur Lee had that boy, him and Tyreek, them on his lap and, talking to him and go pick him up from school and go get him whatever they wanted. And he was just a different person with them. But yeah. So I think that, he got some of that. He knows that I love him and I say it. And that's how we end every phone call, every interaction. That's how that comes across. But with the girlfriend, thing and with girls, we talk about that all the time about just being intentional, communicating, they're their phone head down and, that kind of deal. And I was like, you got to call, you got to pick up the phone, you got to use your words and you got to talk. So, try to help him and all my nephews, it's a village with that, trying to make sure that they know what they need to be when they're out here in the public's eye.
And how about Noelle? What did you teach her about dating and what to accept and not to accept from young men?
Yeah. So Noelle and I, we dated early on. Daddy-daughter dances, just taking her to dinner. We've seen Color Purple a couple of times. So, just all type of opportunities just to show her that just for some joker coming through and say, hey, you pretty. You got to come with something more than that. I know that. My daddy tell me that every day. So, that's just something, I wanted to make sure that, and I had hoped that she would be in a relationship before, she left to go off to college or whatever her, after high school. And she did have that. I wanted her to go through some kind of, and I know it's hard to wish that on your child, but some kind of breakup because I wanted to be here to help her work through it. And, so she experienced all those things and, went off to school and, so at this place where, she's met somebody that she's really, connected to. And I like the two of them together. I like who he is with her. And, I love who she is with him. And, I see some of me in him too, just the way he carries himself. He loves the Lord. And I just see so many things that, they say sometimes you go looking for someone that looks like, your parent or, has the traits of your parents. And so I think
the good and the bad.
Some of them like a magnet you're drawn to. It's like a magnet. You didn't ask for all that. You were looking at this and got that too. So yeah, all the above.
Yes.
All the above.
So let's talk about Mr. Stacy Adams, the pillar of his community.
You call me Adam. Stacy, that's the shoes.
Stacy Adams. I'm thinking about the shoes.
Hey, I wish I had that money. I tell everybody.
Sure you wore some at one point in time.
I tell everybody, they say that. I say, I wish I had that money. Hot top.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you're good.
The pillar of his community. And when a person calls your name,
Mm.
everyone knows you because
Wow.
you say you have a heart of servitude. You have a heart of giving back because you talked about it's not just about waiting until a person tells you they're in need. We're supposed to see their need and we're supposed to act on that need.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from? And I'm going to list a couple of things. The fellas. Tell us about the fellas. For those that don't know about the fellas, tell us about the fellas because you have it, Stacy Anderson, the fellas of Rock Hill. Tell us
Yep.
about the fellas.
Wow. 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 So, I kind of alluded to some of this earlier when I talked about my brother Terry. When they were in high school at Northwestern, those guys got together. This was in that 82, 83 year. And they just decided to, pull a group together, some guys, and, we were a social group. It was a social group, really just to connect, get together, to hang out. And then it morphed into, you know, throwing parties to raise monies to buy matching t-shirt that we would wear to school on, a Friday of a given week. And in Northwestern, like some of the other schools, well, probably Northwestern Rocky High, you go up the steps and then there's the air conditioning unit and you just sit on that. And we have our matching shirts and all that good stuff. And, there were some other social groups at the school for, you know, um, just whoever wanted to be a part of some different things are, included in it. But yeah, so we got started that way. And that ran till about the early 90s or so, and then it ended, disband. And a few of the guys thought about, what if we get the group back together, and then not only just get back together, but make it a 501c3 and mentor
Mhm.
young men, and then morphed it into, how about we offer scholarships? And so we're about to be 10 years on that journey next year, 2027. We start 2017. We went through the process of becoming 501c3 and began our work at Rawlston Road, that whole middle school, because they fed Northwestern, and mentoring program in the school. The fellas, our group, we have, blue collar workers, white collar workers. And so, if you're in that space of hourly, you can't just go and participate, without affecting your household and your income. So we didn't have enough men that could come and support and undergird the work that was happening at Rawlston Road. So we shifted our focus to just Northwestern, where we have one of our guys, Troy Talford. He's there as the Air Force Junior ROTC instructor, one of their instructors. And so we built the junior fellas over there, and running about 30 some odd young men through that program, so freshmen through seniors. And so that's the focus right now. We'd love to get back to expanding and doing something with the middle schools, and eventually we will, all the way down to elementary. That was something we talked with Dr. Barnes about at Sunset
Mhm.
Park. And so a lot of us still go over and read. Miss Gray, Dr. Clara Gray, Feely Gray, she calls us all the time to come read to the kids. And so we're there, just not on a consistent and presence, that we would have like we do at Northwestern.
Yeah,
But we do,
and it's so much needed in elementary and middle schools.
yep,
Mentorship is
to
so much
to
needed.
build them.
To
Absolutely,
give
it is.
yes, to give them that structure and guidance while they're
Running start,
young.
that
And
running start.
it just helps them not make so many mistakes and just
Yep,
stay on a straighter path because we all deviate sometimes, but just to
absolutely.
know I can do this and to see someone
Absolutely.
else that's doing it and having that male presence in a lot of the young men's lives. And when you say scholarship, y'all give big scholarships. It's not like
Yeah, yeah. Hey,
$5,000 scholarship. I
we
saw one
don't
for
play. Yep,
$5,000.
yep. We give away. Our first scholarship was for $1,000 the first year that we did it. And Princess White, Thelma White, her son Matthew, he was our inaugural scholarship winner of $1,000, and he's graduated Clemson and doing amazing things in I think the town of city of Fort Mill there. But now, yeah, we give $15,000 scholarships, each year over these last few years, and we divvy it up, 5,000 and some 1,000, some book scholarships, whatever, just so we can touch as many young men as we can. And we touch 4 schools: Rock Hill High, Northwestern, South Point, and YPA.
Yes. And it's a great thing what you're doing. And not to diminish the $500 scholarships, because any amount of money is conducive to kids. But
laptop,
I think
books,
it's big that you're at a point that you can afford to give away that much money.
And that's through great sponsorship in Rock Hill. We got some great, city leaders and folks that believe in the work that we're doing. And they're sowing, great seed in us. And we are sowing it into the ground and watering it and keeping it going so it grows to come back to harvest, and those guys go to work in this community when they come back.
Yes, and you are a group of men that actually walk the walk that you talk.
And it's tough. It's tough, but we absolutely try. But we definitely do that. Yeah.
So we have the fellas, board member of the Right Moves for Youth.
Yeah.
Brothers Building Brothers. Kappa Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Yeah.
That's you. 2026 has been a big year for you.
Wow.
You won the MLK Dream Keeper Award.
Yes.
Tell us about that. And what were your feelings when they called your name, Mr. Stacy Anderson, the recipient of?
I still, complete, shocked to be, nominated as one thing. You hear like the Oscar nominated, that goes before their name. That is amazing, in itself to even be thought of. But I tell you, sitting there that morning, sipping my coffee, and that gotten to that point, I wouldn't have thought of my name to come up. But again, I'm sitting there beside Juan and one of our mentees and Troy. There we're sitting at that table, and we were missing some folks that didn't make it that day. But I didn't have, my ace. Joy wasn't there. Noelle, Nicholas wasn't there. But she's at school, he's at work, and all that good stuff. So, and I've been around enough to I know how, I've gone every year just about. So I know, families all around and, that kind of deal. So, yeah, it didn't even cross my mind. So I'm sipping coffee and legs crossed, sitting back like Gusta Page, my uncle. That's how I used to sit. It's drinking his with his legs crossed, sitting back. And when they started saying something, they said something about philanthropy and something else. And my ears kind of perked up because that's my title at work. And I was like, that's enough. Folks don't typically use that word. Then he kept going, and he started Bank of America, something else. And I couldn't move. I looked at Juan, and I was just like, and people, I could hear people going, that's Stacy, that's Stacy, that's Stacy, that's Stacy, before they even announced it. And I was just, you could hear it, but I couldn't respond. I couldn't say anything. One lady turned around, she was taking pictures of me already. She's like, oh yeah, and I was just like, wait. So I don't know. It felt like I sat down for 30 minutes, but I knew it wasn't that long, and I had to get up and eventually take that long walk through that crowd to go to that stage, and got there, and I couldn't say anything. So all I could sing was my tribute by Andre Crouch. How could I say thanks for the things that you've done? Yep. That's all I could get out.
So deserving you are. And then there's the Bill Humanitarian Award. Dr. Gladys Robinson. I have a question mark beside that because I'm not quite sure how it goes. So will you tell me how it goes?
Yeah. So if you know Dawn Johnson, of course, with State Farm, Dawn and so many, and I'm saying her name first. I don't think Dr. Gladys Robinson, she was Charlie Robinson's wife, and they're both deceased now. Yep. And she was a Feely, I think, back in the day as well too. But and Charlie was my mentor. So like really how I work and do, that was one of the original questions, where all this came from. Leona Jackson Page, which is my grandmother, my mama's mama, and Charlie Robinson. those two are probably the biggest driving force of why I serve the way that I serve. But that award is Dr. Gladys worked hard in the community for the Black History Museum that they're working on Black Street, and BEL, which is the Black Economic Leadership
Mm-hmm.
League. And,
Mm-hmm.
to ensuring that resources are available for, when you think about folks becoming entrepreneurs like yourself and how you were able to, over these years, build your brand and everything that you have, what it took you to get to that point. They are using like a box version to kind of help people get it and centralize it, workforce development. So we just did a huge thing for kids in high school around here. They did it at York Tech for the local 11th and 12th graders when they think about, if they're not going to school, what trade or service or what they would like to do. So we think about workforce development. So they offer a lot of different things to empower the adults and the youth. But that award for the work that Gladys has done in the community, and to have my name anywhere close tied to that, when I read the email when it came through that I was selected for that, I sent it back and said, is this right? Like, I'm reading this, but I just want to make sure you got the right person. This came to my mailbox, and so that was a blessing in itself, but something I hold in high regard for sure.
Do you feel deserving of all that you've achieved?
Yes, I do, because I know that this is ministry for me. And God, he's gonna get all the glory in everything that I do. And so this is a representation of him. I always try to make sure that my heart is right in what I'm doing. I'm not perfect. So some stuff, the ugliness of me being present at the forefront, it peaks out sometimes because people are calling your name and taking pictures and all of that. But at the root of it all, he knows me, and he knows my heart, and he knows how much that I want to ensure that he gets the glory, and that folks know that everything I am and that I do, it's absolutely because of him. So yeah, I believe I'm deserving because that's how he made me. I'm in his likeness and image. So absolutely, he deserves the glory. I deserve the glory of being able to carry out his work, on
Yes.
this earth. So
Yes.
yep, yep,
How do you stay humble? And I guess some of what you just said answers the
yeah.
question. God.
Yeah, and from again, Leona Jackson Page, my grandmother, she would,
Mhm.
always say, don't get too high, and or she said, don't act like nobody can hit you in the butt with a red apple. I didn't know what all those things, and I called them Leona isms, and I said I'm gonna write a book. If my cousins are watching this, don't y'all try to steal my patent idea. But she always had all these quotes and those things. And so she made sure that you recognize that you're not doing things in your own might, your own strength. So you always got to lean and depend on a source. And sometimes it's other people as
Yes.
well. So, yeah,
Mhm.
so I fight hard to be humble in all things. And, you try to brush off when people congratulate you and all of that. But sometimes you have to step in it and own it.
And
And
say
I
thank
love
you. Yeah.
when Snoop Dogg said that. I want to thank me for getting up early in the morning and pushing through and all that stuff. And, not that I'm holding him in this high esteem, but when he said that, it so resonates with me that
Yes.
sometimes we don't give ourselves enough.
Because a lot we put in the work. Yes.
We
And
have
sometimes we have
sacrificed.
to pat ourselves on the back.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
You
I'm
made
proud of you
sacrifices.
today. You did that.
You
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
did
Yep.
that. And that's my
Absolutely.
next question. Do you think Miss Lizzie
Mm.
and Mr. Arthur, do you think they're proud of their baby boy?
I, yeah, I tell you, you're on it today because all the questions that you're asking, many of them are ones that I ask myself every day. I have their photo on my desk in my office. And I look and talk to them every single day. And there are days that I hear it just as clear as you're talking to me that they are proud of me. Um, so yes, because I'm always fighting hard to ensure that that Anderson name, um, will be sustainable, that it will last through the test of time, that we have made an impact. Um, I think about my mom and how she cared for so many people and did so many things. And then when she couldn't, the people that would come and check on her or through us, just wanted to make sure that, that she was good. So all of those things are impact and legacies that they've already created. And so I'm just, that piece. And I'm sure that know and pray that it will, go through Nicholas and Noel and theirs, and through Carlos' children, my brother Gerald Terry's sons, so all of the kids are doing amazing. Young people are doing great and amazing work. And so I think that's all that we want, is just that their name is still held in high regard. Not so much with everybody else, but at least with us, because if it's with us, then we know that we're personifying that out in, the communities.
Are you proud of you?
Yeah, sometimes that get hard. That gets hard for me to say, that I am, and I'm learning. I'm learning to do more of me, and speak more into me and of me. But at the end of the day, yeah, to be where I am in this life, and given these opportunities and the choices that I made, some I had to reroute and make again. And when I went left and should have went right, I came back and went right the next time, because I figured it out, that left didn't work. So yeah, so I am. I'm daily becoming prouder and prouder of myself, just because of my growth, of where I was and where I am now.
Thank you. And I'm going to go back to what you said about you and Joy before we close, what you said about you and Joy having the ability now to spend more time with each other because you're empty nesters. And I so enjoy looking at your pictures on Facebook, because most of the time you're coordinating with each other.
Hey, she know if she rolling with me, Gail. If she rolling with me,
Yeah, and you are a well-dressed man anyway,
I
well-groomed
get that from
man.
Arthur Lee. I get that from Arthur Lee. My daddy had suits that lasted 20, 30. I mean, but what he did, and that's what he taught us. You talk about that
Mhm,
earlier. When he got home or whatever, he hung his clothes. He said, "Hang your clothes up and they'll last."
mhm.
And so, I do that. I hang them up, and then I go buy something else and add something else to them. So don't talk to Joy about clothes from that angle of it. But I always tell her, if we're going to something, I will kind of preempt and say, "Hey, that's what I'm thinking about." When I don't even mind now. There's a couple of memes out there of couples that are dressed alike or whatever, and I would probably think it was funny. But back, I want everybody to know, hey, that's mine right there. Like,
That's,
look
yeah,
here,
we together.
hey, find the dude that's got match, got some of that color. She with him, so
Yes,
go head
yes,
on. Yeah,
yes.
go head on.
And two more questions, and we're going to try to make it quick.
Yeah.
What would you say to men on how to experience or how to navigate through grief and vulnerability, the importance of it?
Yeah, real quick, I would say to men, if your parents, especially if your mother, if she is still alive, I don't care what you've been through, what the challenges have been, discord or whatever, heal that. You pick up the phone and make the first move, make the call. If go seeing is a challenge or whatever, at least start with the phone. But if you can get to or whatever, and because it's getting late. So when something happens and you move to the other side and the grief sets in, you're working through different levels of grief. You're dealing with the
Mhm.
absence of that person.
And the woulda, coulda, shoulda.
you're dealing with all the hurt and the things that you, like you said, shoulda, coulda, woulda done, and what I should made a call. Although it's too many, and you shouldn't have all those layers. Make right what you can, deal with it, ask for forgiveness. Now, once you do all that, you move on because you've done your part. And sometimes that's the seed planting, or that's, the Bible tells that some sang, some prayed. So figure out what your part is in that and do your part, and you can rest well. And that way, when you asked me about crying, for that funeral, for my mom sitting there, whatever, it was joy knowing where she is, and she was at peace, a few tears. But it's not that I'm trying to jump in that casket with her and take me and not letting them put dirt on her and all that stuff, whatever, because I knew what we had, and I knew her relationship with Christ, and I know mine, and I know that I'm working every day to see her again. So I was good.
Mm-hmm. And before we close, I want to say thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
And I have one more question. It's one question with 3 answers. This is the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Tell us 3 things that has helped you to survive.
God, family, and relationships.
God, family, relationships. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
You have a great night, okay?
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.